Alright, good morning guys. This morning I'm going to talk about Ayahuasca number 4, which was my last and largest Ayahuasca session. And I say largest for two reasons. One, it was the largest dose. Our shaman Alberto works with two different bowls. He works with kind of your standard little bowl, and I've had various doses from 3/4 full to it all the way full. And a full dose of the little bowl is really powerful and gave me my most profound vision before this experience on Ayahuasca session number 2. And then he also works with a much larger bowl, which I don't know the exact milliliters, but it's noticeably larger. So anyways, Alberto filled it up to the brim, and I drank this large bowl down, and I was ready for it. I was very excited. After 3 very successful and happy Ayahuasca sessions where I got to meet God and I got to sing and dance with the harmony of the universe, I was ready for number 4. I felt I understood the space. I felt I understood the blessing, and I felt that yeah, bring it on. Let's go. Let's go. I'm ready to surrender. And so I drank it, and I just started getting as comfortable around the fire as I could. Most people were very still around the fire, but I moved my chair closer and put my feet up next to the embers. It was a little chilly. So one of the lessons that I had learned from the previous experiences is not to do what you think is considerate of other people, because in my head I was having these voices say like, don't stick your feet next to the fire. People don't want to see your feet. But my instinct and my nature was saying, yeah, your feet are cold, stick them next to the fire. So I stuck them next to the fire, and they warmed up. They felt great. And I just started to try to get in my own rhythm and try to get out of my own head and get out of any sort of cultural norms and just try to be myself as much as possible. And as I did that, and the ayahuasca started to take effect, I started to move around a little bit and started to sing and hum in my head. Now, to say that I wasn't considerate is not exactly correct, because yeah, I didn't sing out loud. I didn't put my feet in people's faces. It's just sometimes I believe that we have this battle within us between what we really feel that we need to do, what our feelings and our biology are telling us that we need to do and say, things that we need to say, but then your mind will give you this second idea, which is like, no, don't say that could lead to trouble, or don't say that's inappropriate. Yeah, I'm just like, fuck that. I'm going to express myself and who I am and my heart and be as natural as possible. And I think that if everyone is that way, and comfortable with who we are as people, comfortable with who we are as humans, then we can just, be together and in harmony, and we don't have to constantly judge ourselves and judge other people. So anyways, the ayahuasca is taking effect, and I'm in tune with myself, and I'm looking at the fire and meditating and breathing. And as I'm breathing, I like to, but a much lighter, a little hum in my chest. I find that the vibration in my chest is a nice reminder of the vibration of the universe. And so as my breath is coming in, I feel myself getting in tune with the universe. And as I got in tune with the universe, the universal power started to flow inside of me, until, like if you've watched my previous ayahuasca trip experiences, the same thing happened, where I just started to fill up with the tingles, the good tingles, the kind of tingles where you feel so powerful and alive you could blast off like a rocket ship. And I just started feeling really good and really powerful, and people started to lay down on their bed. I don't even remember really what was going on with other people so much. It's an interesting thing. Someone could be sitting right next to you, and if you were sitting right next to someone in silence without ayahuasca, it would feel a bit awkward, right? You'd want to make conversation. We're so not comfortable with ourselves. I say we in the general sense. We so are uncomfortable with the silence. But something that these plant medicines will teach you, and they taught me many a times, and especially these last several days with ayahuasca, is that you don't need to make any noise. You don't need to make any sound. Now, if your heart says to make sound, if your heart says to talk, if your heart says to open up, then you need to follow that. But if it's your mind that's uncomfortable with itself, because minds do that, minds and brains get very uncomfortable with quiet, with silence, then you need to shut that off and just get right within your heart space. So I got within my heart space, and I got focused on what was going on inside me. And as I did that, I got closer and closer to the harmony of the universe, until it's like I heard the symphony of the cosmos, and I started to dance with the cosmos and started to sway with the cosmos. And I realized that, once again, the same realization, this is all a big, beautiful dance, a big, beautiful symphony. And God, or the creator of the universe, for whatever reason, she appears very feminine to me, like a feminine swirl of purple and multicolored. And maybe it's because I can't get an exactly clear image, or maybe it's impossible to get a clear image of God. Maybe that's why even the word God fails at describing who God is, because it is beyond words. It is beyond words. And as soon as you start using words to describe the indescribable, you're already not describing it. It's an experience. It is so unbelievably powerful that it is beyond a doubt the most joyous and enrapturing feeling you could imagine. Good sex can be like that, right? When you lose yourself with your bride, with your wife, or with your lover, with the person, and you just become entwined. It starts to go. It's difficult. Can you describe the best sex you've ever had? No. And communion with God is also equally undescribable, if not more, and more powerful as well. So I just communed with God, and I don't really remember the point, but I was just trying to go with my feeling, not trying to measure time. And then when I felt like it was time to lay down, I laid down, and my whole body is tingling. My voice, the vibration is now, it's like multi-layered. I could hear all of the dips and all of the intricacies in my voice. I could just feel them moving through my body. I was just breathing. I mean, probably if you were there in the room, you might just see a guy breathing. But I was just very, very in tune. And then as some, I don't know if they were bad thoughts, but just thoughts that were trying to control my experience came into my head, I purged. And similarly to my other experiences, if you've watched those trip reports, all of the purging coincided with bad thoughts. And as I accepted that, and as I recognized that my purging and my puking, as I'm puking up these bad thoughts, or this brown liquid, which is what I had put in my body, this brackish liquid, you realize that the purging is such a beautiful part of the process. And as I'm purging it, I'm purifying myself. And that's how I saw it. Every purge, every puke was a purification. It was removing the negative energy and allowing me to recharge and realign myself even closer with God, or with the truth, or with love, however you want to describe it. Don't get hung up on the words. Don't get hung up on judgments of people you know that have taken God and used that word for bad, or taken God and used that word for money, because that's not what it's about. What I'm describing is something that is within all of us. It's not native to America. It's not native to India. It's not native to any one region. It permeates the cosmos. It's within every single particle, every single wave, every single string. It's all around us. And for some reason, it's what I've noticed in my experiences, it's like a tuning. It's like a radio. There's radio waves everywhere. You can't see them. You can't see the radio waves. But if you tune into the right frequency, you can hear music. And you can hear loud music, or you can hear soft music. You can hear relaxing music, or you can hear, kind of intense music. Lots of different kinds of music. Well, the music that I would describe as the ineffable God, the creator, the spirit, I find that my heart is the tuner. The heart is the tuner. And as my heart gets tuned correctly, I'm able to hear the music more clearly. I'm able to feel, and this is a music that is something you feel. It is something that moves through you. It is something that compels you. It is something that fills you up. It's the Holy Ghost. Jesus is the tuner, Jesus is the heart, and the Holy Ghost is the music. And God, the Father, is the creator. If you want to use that mythology, that also works. Whatever words you want to use. But remember, it's beyond words. And, so I purged hard. I purged really hard because I wanted to get the frequency perfect. So I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the music, trying to consciously open my heart up as much as possible. Wider, wider, wider. I think of it, if it's a perfect circle, and I started off in my sober state with only a little bit of a dialing in to that love, to that cosmic frequency, I just open it a little bit more, and then I would need to purge. And then I would open it a little more, and then I would need to purge. And I would open it up a little more, and I would need to purge. And my goal was to get 100% communion with God. And I ended up having this, as I'm doing this, I have this vision where my soul or my heart felt like my soul, but it was in my heart. And it was this white light, and it was this white gem, this like perfect white gem that was just filling up, and I just saw the whole universe out in front of me, and all of this energy just flowing from all of the stars and all of the universe, this white energy just filling up this white gem inside of me, and I just kind of laid there like that, just such a weird thing to probably hear, unless you've ever experienced something like that, but that's how it felt, that's how it looked, that's how I experienced it. And this wasn't my brain taking it to that level. It was just, that's what happened. That's what happened. And as I got higher and higher and higher on the frequency of God, I got to a point where I just was like ready to burst. I would get, so that's actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that's what would trigger the purging, was fear. Because as I got higher and higher on God, as I got closer and closer to the oneness, as I got closer and closer to the totality of the universe, as I got closer and closer to love, pure love, there was this little thought in my head about, we've never gone this deep. We've never gone this far. This is beyond the realm of mortals. This is a power that can destroy you. Maybe it shreds your mind. In our society, we fear insanity almost above all everything else. And boy, oh boy, I've had my bouts with insanity. And so that fear would come in, and then I would purge out that fear, and I would get in my heart, and I'd be like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It feels right. Don't do what you think is right. Do what feels right. And this is the best feeling in the universe. This is the ticket. This is the one you gotta go on. This is the ride of the life. And so I jumped on that ride as deep as I could. And as I got on that ride and I just went deeper and deeper and deeper towards God, towards the summit, I felt the tapping. And I got a little shooken and a little fear. What's going on here? And it was, I forget his name, but he's this really beautiful man. He's got a very strong body, just a perfect build, and he's extremely, Angelo's his name. And he's extremely quiet and doesn't talk much at all. but he is one of the facilitators, so he helps you. He helps you walk to the restroom. He helps the shaman. He lights the candles. When you're through these experiences, you'll just see Angelo, always perfect timing. As you're stumbling to the restroom, he gives you that strong shoulder to kind of lean on and guides you to the restroom. When he takes you back to your bed, tucks you in perfectly. He's an angel. He's an angel, and he's so good at his job. And I guess ayahuasca vines grows on his father's land. I mean, I don't know if there's a connection between that, but what a man. Young man. And so this beautiful man, beautiful muscular man, taps me, and I don't know if he spoke English or Spanish or if he spoke at all, but from what I understood is the shaman wanted to see me. So he picked me up and he took me, and there's the shaman sitting down in one chair and an empty chair facing me, and he just guides me and just kind of like puts me in the chair until I'm facing 100% with the shaman. Now, you have to realize this was culminating at the experience where I'm reaching as divine oneness with God as possible, and then I'm facing the shaman face to face, being summoned, being called right forth. So for me, it felt like I was about to meet God, and sure enough, he was no longer the shaman. Angela was no longer the shaman. This was no longer the world. Everything was God. Everything was me. Not me, but everything was one. It was so beyond understanding that I don't think I'm going to be able to describe it properly, but people weren't necessarily the people that I view them in conscious life. People were beyond that. People were... So anyways, so now I'm face to face with the shaman, and my fear starts coming into me, so I start getting sick. And as I'm getting sick, the shaman just starts saying this very intense words to me in Spanish, Quechua, I think Spanish. And he's just saying these things to me, and he starts moving this like palm branch in front of him, and he's like, it's like a magic. It's like really, really powerful magic that he's saying. And I felt almost like unworthy. As I try to reach this divine oneness with God, how could I let fear and doubt creep into me just by facing shaman, by facing God, by facing reality, by facing the truth, by facing it? How could I let fear come into me? But in any case, they got me a bucket. The shaman he just kept speaking and moving he was blowing some wind at me. The facilitators saw that I needed some help. They would come to me, do you need some help? And I would, no. And then I really did actually feel like I needed help, like I needed to throw up. But I knew this was the realization. I didn't need any help. I didn't need to be fearful. If my heart was 100% open and I surrendered, keyword surrender. If I surrendered properly to the experience, I would have needed no help, no purging, no bucket. I would have been one with the shaman, one with God, one with the universe, and that would have been fine. But I couldn't surrender all the way, for whatever reason. And so I purged. They brought me a bucket, and I purged in the bucket. And as I did that, I just kind of was in a daze and just kind of like surrendering. I just focused on surrendering and just losing myself to the experience. And then when I came to, I saw the shaman was gone. He wasn't in his chair. It was an empty chair. And it was like, whoa. I was brought back from the oneness and kind of like brought back to the world. And I was like, oh. And I started getting sick. And I was like, I got to get back. And I'm like, my mind started to control. And, I was having trouble surrendering again as my experience started to shift. And I just shambled back to my bed. And they helped me over there. I purged, and then I laid down, and I don't know if I felt like I let the shaman down or let God down, but in any case, it didn't matter, because one of the things you realize on these experiences, if you really, really go deep, is that guilt and fear, they don't serve you. All it is understanding and drawing towards the love, drawing towards the love, drawing towards the light, and letting the logos work in you, speaking the truth in your heart. So what I did was I just drew back into my heart and surrendered as much as possible. And then the white light continued, and I started to tingle and fill up. And then I got to tap again. But this time I was ready. This time I was ready. Angela picked me up, helped me, and there's the shaman again. Now this time I wasn't fearful. This time I said, well, fear, maybe there's fear rattling around, doesn't matter. Absolute surrender. I don't care if I'm shredded psychologically. I don't care if I go into the deepest insanity and I live into a convalescent home for the rest of the life. I didn't think that, but this is how I'm trying to describe this level of surrender. I don't care if I die or whatever happens. I'm just going to surrender. So I looked at the shaman and just with my heart open, and I just looked without fear at the shaman. And, you know, he's wearing this tribal dress, and he's got his shirt off, and he's you know, the smoke is going on. He's got his brew there, and he's got his fan, and he's a really powerful force to look at in sober land, but to look at in ayahuasca land, wow. So I just looked at him and just love. And as my love just grew deeper and deeper, and the fear just melted away and it was gone. And then the shaman got busy. He started buffeting me with his leaves, and I just took the buffet, and just as these fronds just started waving across my body, and his smoke is blowing over my body, he's blowing smoke over my body, and I close my eyes and I just accept these as gifts, as blessings, as nothing about judging, nothing about worry about is it going to scratch me or anything, just letting it happen. And then I don't know what he filled up with, but I just hear and this mist just goes all over me. I don't know if water or what, but it felt amazing. It felt like, if you're play Dungeons and Dragons, like high level ritual magic being done on me. I felt like wards, like protective wards of magic were being placed around me to protect me. I felt like I was being anointed in a religious sense, anointed and blessed and protected from evil. And it was an extremely powerful experience. And at some point, I don't really remember when or what, maybe after it was finished. Oh no, gosh, okay, I don't want to forget that. In the deepest part, when I was losing myself to what the shaman was doing, he was doing all sorts of stuff, man. He started sucking on my chest. At one point, he kissed my chest, and it was just perfect. It was just perfect. Now, I later found out the next day that the shaman, who when he arrived at the ceremony was smiling and happy, and he's swinging on this rope swing and kissing people on the cheek, he looked the perfect image of healthy and happy. Well, he was violently ill during the ceremony. And what happened was, what I know happened was, he sucked out my negative energy. He sucked out the remnants. He also did this healing ceremony on another friend of mine. And if it might sound crazy, but if you're a sensitive person and you've ever been around someone with a lot of negative, toxic energy, how do you feel after that? You feel like shit, right? You feel awful. You could be having a beautiful day, and then all of a sudden, you start talking to your friend who just dumps negativity on you without giving you love to refill you, right? He just dumps negativity on you, and you just, you're like a wastebasket. They just dumped it on you. Sensitive people are very sensitive to that, and ayahuasca increases your sensitivity to that. And the shaman is someone who works with ayahuasca and is a healer, so he's extremely sensitive to that. I think probably sensitive people would make good healers. So that's something you might think of if you're a sensitive person. You got to realize your reaction and your relationship to other people's energies. So yeah, I think he just sucked the last remnants of negative energy out of me, or whatever he found out of me. And that's probably why I felt so good and so much better. And the next day, sure enough, the facilitator Hassan told me, you received a healing, is how he described it. To me, it felt like a blessing, like an anointing. But words are words. And so back in my bed, I lay there in communion with God, and as I laid there in communion with God, I saw things in my past that I forgave, that I loved, people in my life that I loved, myself that I loved. I saw visions of my entire life flash before my eyes in clear detail. I saw just the power working through me. I started moving my hands through my hair, and I like my hair, but it's like as I'm touching my hair, I'm like loving my hair. I'm like, wow, God gave you hair, and you have hair. What a nice feeling. And that's nothing against you if you don't have hair. I mean, we all have these beautiful gifts, and we all have these beautiful parts of ourselves that we sometimes don't appreciate. Other people might appreciate it, especially your wife or your husband. The people who love you very deeply, they appreciate it, but you don't see it. And a lot of times that's one of our sources of depression, is we just don't even recognize the beauty and the love and the divineness that is within ourselves. So I started just to appreciate and love all these things inside of me, and my family, and life, and the river, and just all sorts of things, everything. Just started loving things. And then I started even looking at evil. I started looking at the devil. And as I looked at the devil, he transformed from this scary guy to, he's just playing the saxophone. This big, the red. The vision I had was, the classical devil, like the South Park devil, but more lifelike. And he's just playing the saxophone, and I realized that as part of this cosmic dance, that he has a role to play. And maybe the devil, you hung up with the devil because in science you know that there's no red horned guy running around the universe causing problems, but it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for, from what I understand, is the part that keeps you away from love. Anything that keeps you from love, anything that keeps you from opening your heart, is the devil, is the darkness. So your heart is your and when I say heart, I'm not saying that you can find love inside there, like, oh, there's the love cell. No. But that seems to be where it's based, and that seems to be where it's at. That seems to be where it feels it's at. Love is light. I'm the way, the truth, the light. That's one of the things that Jesus said. Jesus dwells in your heart. There's so many parallels, and you can use other religions, I'm sure. I just use Christianity because I was raised in Christianity, so that terminology is most comfortable for me. That's the terminology I understand, and it works. And the more love you have in your life, the more light you have in your life, and the less power darkness has over you. Just like a fire. The brighter your fire, the lighter it is. The weaker your fire, the more darkness there is. And you need the light to protect you from the darkness. You need the light to warm you from the cold. And darkness is cold. An absence of God is cold darkness. That's hell. Cold darkness. Just totally away from the fire and the light of God. So, in any case, I saw that, yeah, darkness and cold is just the opposite side of the coin of light and fire, light and warmth. And that you need that because you don't really even appreciate the fire until you've been cold. You don't even know what fire and light is unless there's darkness and cold. So I saw that, the magnificent creator, the magnificent universe in all of her or her glory, uses evil, we'll say. Evil in the sense that I'm not talking about what your pastor tells you is evil, and it might be true, but I'm not telling you what your mom says is evil, or what America says is evil, or whatever the newspaper says is evil. That's not the evil I'm talking about. I'm talking about the evil that keeps you from opening your heart, feeling your body, loving yourself, loving the universe, and dancing with the cosmos. That's the evil. Anything that keeps you from that, that's evil. And but even evil's not necessarily evil. So when you pull back completely and you just see, wow, when you dwell in evil, when you dwell in darkness, when you dwell in the cold, it makes you want to go towards the light. And I saw that in my own life. I saw that when I was in the darkness, when I was in the cold, when I had gone away from God, when I had gone away from heart, when I had gone away from feeling, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But now, because I've come out of that and I'm back in communion with God, it's how much I appreciate God even more so than I ever did. And another thing that I saw is that when you're able to experience the darkness and go through it, is that you're able to recognize other people in darkness, and recognize that even though they're in darkness now, there is a chance for the spark of life, the spark of God, the spark of light, the spark of the Logos, Jesus, whatever analogy you want to use, to reawaken them and to bring them back into the light. So if you hate Nazis because they're evil, or you hate Antifa because they're evil, I'm just using those two because they're very popular right now in social media. They're the boogeyman. They're the bad ones. And I'm sure, they do, both sides do very, very bad things because they're not operating with love. They're operating with hate in their hearts. You realize that those people are at the extreme of hate and the extreme of a lack of love. And you realize that even within them are sparks of love and sparks of light. And that if your heart is 100% full, that you can forgive them, and that hopefully you can be a light, and hopefully one day, if there's enough light in the world, that will melt away. That will melt away, and that they will be saved as well. Think of one biblical story, Saul, who became the Apostle Paul. He was an evil man who went around persecuting people, and then he became one of the greatest disciples, or not a disciple, but an apostle of God. So God can work with evil people. So it's we all have a heart that's open to a certain extent, and if you opened it as much as Jesus did, Jesus in the story, if you don't want to use the real Jesus, you realize that you have so much love. You have love for the world. You have love for everyone, and that you can even suffer terribleness. Now, I'm not saying that that's where I'm at, but I'm saying that that's where I want to go. I want to open my heart as fully and as 100% with God as possible, and I don't care what happens to me. I don't care what happens to me. I want to open it as much as possible. And I know that sounds... I don't know how that sounds. Doesn't matter how that sounds. That's what I want to do. I want to be in as direct communion with God, because when you feel it, it's the best feeling in the world. There's a lot of great feelings in the world, right? There's a lot of great feelings in the world. Lust and laughter and just merrymaking and communion, and there's all sorts of great feelings. But for me, the number one ticket is communion with God, and you can only commune with God if you're filled with light. You could approach God with darkness in your heart, but you're going to have a lot of purging along the way. You need to come into his throne room, to come really into his throne room. You need to be purified. And I don't know if we're ever able to purely 100% purify ourselves, but in any case, I'm going to devote my life to doing that as much as possible. And I'm sure I'll fail along the way. I'm sure there will be lots of missteps. Even yesterday, I stumbled quite a bit, and this morning I was able to kind of retune myself. But all of it pales in comparison to what I was able to do with ayahuasca. Anyways, guys, that was experience number 4. Beautiful, profound, and one of the best experiences that I've had in my life in an extremely long time. And one of the reasons that I highly recommend ayahuasca, if this resonates with who you are and what you're going through, if this seems like the answer, then I highly recommend it. Have faith, and know that you may see a lot of darkness in your ayahuasca experience. Your experiences may not be like mine, but you have to purge those out before you can get to the light. You have to form a relationship with your heart. You have to form a relationship with God. That's the only, just as a fire is the only thing that's going to keep you warm in the darkness and warm in the cold and light in the darkness, you need God, you need love. Forget about words. You need love, which is a word. You need that feeling, that vibration, in order to get yourself through the darkness. So fill up on that. Find it in your life. You don't have to find it in ayahuasca. You can find it. There's a lot of people who have a lot more love than I do. Never tried drugs. They found it in their life, through their family, through being a mother, through being a father, through being a missionary, through being a volunteer, through, I don't know, just through their life. You know, you could just be a owner of a restaurant filled with love. It's why you go to those restaurants and you meet those restaurant owners and you're like, wow, they got so much love. This is a really great restaurant. That's why the food tastes so good. Love is the magic ingredient. It's magic. It's the power of light. It's the white magic. And fear is the black magic. And I just want to stay as much in the white as possible. Not because the black is evil, because like as I said, it's the opposite side of the coin, and there's a part for that to play in the drama. But after wallowing in that black for a while, and I just know my calling is in the light and the fire. Anyways, guys, I love you guys so much, and I hope that you guys got something out of this. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to write to me. And I love you guys, and I just pray and hope that, and I know actually, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. You realize that everything is perfectly as it should be. Even though there's all these fearful things and our civilization is on the brink, and that's another thing I guess I'll get into on another topic. I saw the precariousness of our civilization and how the powers of hate and darkness have allowed ourselves to build these, so there's others. Anyways, have allowed ourselves to build these technologies like nuclear missiles and, you know, F-16s and F-14s that are just vehicles of destruction. But they've also allowed us to commune with people across the world and spread the information and light across the world at light speeds. So there's all sorts of good and evil mixed together in our life, in our world together. But we definitely stand at a precarious edge where our technologies can shift us one way or the other. And that could just be fear in me and a lack of surrender to God and to destiny. But in any case, this is a great big drama. You've got your part to play. Find it, play it to the best of your ability, fill your heart with love, and you will. Your performance will be phenomenal. I'm going to do the same, and we can all do it together. And if we all do it together, then I think and I know that we're going to be fine. We're going to be absolutely fine. Because our Creator wants us to be fine. Our Creator wants us. So this is another vision. Our Creator wants us. All right, let me go back a step. So where does the evil come from? Where does the darkness come from? I talked about some of its effects on us, but where does it come from? I just laid for a great deal of my ayahuasca trip, especially towards the end. It was a constant battle with it. And I found it was coming from my brain. It was coming from my mind. My mind was giving me these fantasies and these ideas and these vainglories, telling myself that you're good, that you're better than other people. The reason you're having these experiences, you're chosen. But in my heart was saying, forget all that. Forget all that. That's not true. Truth is love. Back in the heart. As soon as I would get back in my heart, all of these illusions that my brain was throwing at me just dispersed. And I found that the power of the heart has the power to disperse illusions and to course correct yourself back to truth. Fantasy is fun, and you can go into fantasy, and you can go into perversion and all sorts of, and I saw that my brain can use perversion, going into dark things, but my brain could also use very creative things and use visions of the light and fantasies of the light to bring me out of my heart. But all of it was bringing me out of my heart and bringing me away from love. And as soon as I recognized that, I brought my consciousness back to my heart, and all of those illusions vanished away. So I did that over and over and over again for I don't know how long. You know, time doesn't have the same meaning in those experiences, but it seemed like hours. Just up all night, just my heart correcting myself from my brain. My brain trying to attack from various angles, and my heart just dispersing, almost like a sword, just slashing the devil, if you want to use that mythology. But you can also use the brain versus the heart. That's the same. And as it did it, my brain would come into unity as a tool of my heart rather than a suppressor of my heart. And so I saw with our technology that why do we have a brain? If our brain, why would the universe evolve us with a brain? Why would we evolve with, or not even a brain? Of course you need a brain probably for some consciousness, I don't know. But why would it evolve such a dominant brain, and particularly a self-conscious brain, if that's the source of evil? You can go back to, I even looked at biblical verses. There's so much bubbling up, and there's so much I'm not able to actually recall from this trip that I'm sure it's going to come back in months or weeks or years even. But you look back at the Garden of Eden, and sure enough, you know, Adam and Eve are in perfect harmony with God, and they're naked with nature. And then they get this self-consciousness, and they reject their nature, and they put the clothes on, and they walk away from God. That's evil. Self-consciousness is evil. It takes you away from it. But the power of our prefrontal cortex, or the power of our brain, has allowed us to build this incredible, I'll just use the word incredible for it. I mean, it's like, God, I can't believe it. Our society, that we're shooting satellites into space and communicating videos of ourselves across the world at light speed. This incredibleness, this power of the brain. And I saw, well, why would God give us that? And I saw that, oh, well, maybe that's for free choice, for free will, is that you can choose whether to follow your heart or your brain. And if you follow your brain, it will lead you to perversion. If you follow your heart, it'll lead you to God. Maybe that's the whole point. That's the experiment, is that we get to choose whether or not we want to follow darkness or follow light. But then I thought, is technology bad? And I don't know if I thought that, but these thoughts were coming to my head. And is technology bad? And I thought, well, it's here. It's here. It's a part of us. It seems to be a natural instinct for us to build this stuff and to tinker with it. I thought, well, if our heart's correct, we could build beautiful pieces of technology that can bring our music to the cosmos. We can travel into outer space. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point of our brain. Maybe that's the gift. But with the gift comes the choice. We can also destroy ourselves. And so we can choose whether to use this technology to make our music and to make our love brighter and extend it to all the corners of the universe, or we can also use it to bring destruction to ourselves and perhaps to other species on other planets. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about aliens. I don't know. I didn't get any visions about that. But in any case, guys, back to finishing this video, because I got to go. It's breakfast time, which means juice, because today we're not going to do ayahuasca. I finished it. I did my 4 ceremonies. Today is San Pedro. And this is the last psychedelic experience I'm going to have, the last plant medicine experience I'm going to have in South America before going back to America and integrating all of these lessons into my life and following my destiny. And so finally, once again, guys, have a great day. Trust your heart, follow your love, fill your life with love, and fill the people around you with light and love. Don't judge. Don't judge yourself. Let those things go. Let those things go. Be in the moment. Follow your heart. Tune in with the vibration of the universe. Surrender. Love you guys.